Follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to like. The latest installment of the Jurassic franchise just dropped, Rebirth, starring Scarlett Johansson. And I just wanted to give a brief recap of each film leading up to Rebirth, which is now the 7th film in the franchise. So let's catch up real quick, because this franchise has just been an interesting downward spiral. Interesting and disappointing, but let's begin. Jurassic Park, the very beginning, is very awe-inspiring. It really did build this world that is larger than life. It's so large, in fact, that they've been trying to recreate the magic for several movies now, and they just cannot do it. It is the ultimate question of could versus should. You could make dinosaurs real again, but should you? It is the only movie where the characters are actually interesting, and they do bring some of these characters back for future films, but the story of all these other films are not interesting enough with these characters that we've grown to love from the first film. Now, the kids in this film, Tim and Alex, have a genuine innocence about them. We see them briefly again in The Lost World, but they serve as a good character arc for our main protagonist here, Dr. Alan Grant, who's kind of just annoyed with children. He's just like, ugh, kids, gross. And you got Ellie Sadler, his girlfriend, who's got baby fever. But through the adventure that Alan Grant must go on to survive and protect these kids, it gives him a character arc where by the end of the film, you kind of see him as a parental figure. He's like a father figure to these kids. He took the responsibility of a father to protect his children. You know, they're not his children, but what I'm saying is these kids instinctively brought that out of him. And by the end of the film, he's like, hey, you know what? Kids ain't so bad. You know, having a couple of kids seems kind of cool, actually. There's a genuine grin. And you can see Ali Sadler at the end there too, like thinking, I got him. He likes the babies now. Ian Malcolm as another iconic character who returns in future films. And Lewis Dodgson, who is a much more interesting villain that should have been brought back sooner and probably should have played a bigger role in Jurassic Park 1. I don't think it kills it that he wasn't the primary antagonist in Jurassic Park, but for them to introduce him and then not really do with him anything until Dominion is kind of disappointing. But overall, Jurassic Park, I very much prefer the movie to the book. John Hammond in the movie is actually a much more interesting character than he is in the book. The Lost World, which is the second book, is a much more interesting book than the movie. So they kind of flip there, because the Lost World movie doesn't take any material from the book other than the characters. And even with the characters, they flip-flop a lot of the characters and who they are. So it kind of sucks. And the book had a very interesting subject, which was behavior, the behavior of humans. And when Michael Crichton was writing the book, he actually said that he really wanted to write a book about behavior. And he used The Lost World as an opportunity to explore that subject. But anyways, life finds a way. This is Ian Malcolm's story. The motive for him to save the girlfriend was enough for them to swap the Kelly character, who was a different kid in the book. The kid was not even his daughter. So I feel really unnecessary to just make her his daughter. I don't know why they did that. Doesn't make any sense. Narratively, it added nothing. And then Vince Vaughn, who I do like as an actor, was also a character that didn't exist in the book. It's like someone from PETA was like, can you put an animal rights activist in your film and we'll give you guys some funding for the film. And it's here too where we get like this small taste of these animal rights activists trying to kind of insert themselves in the Jurassic Park universe. But it's a lot more interesting to just have these dinosaurs like in the first film where they're just wild animals. There's no activism necessary to the story because it doesn't add anything. It's kind of just annoying. And Lewis Dodgson, who I mentioned earlier, should have been the primary antagonist of The Lost World because that's what he was in the book. This dude was evil, okay? He threw Sarah Harding off a boat, all right? I'm just saying. Instead, we get this guy, his name is Peter Ludlow, and he's this dweeb dork of an antagonist. But I will say the way they end the film with them arriving to San Diego, they should have kind of went with like a Noah's Ark type situation where they loaded this ship with different dinosaurs. And that could have actually been a good start for Jurassic World. If you would have started from The Lost World, put these dinosaurs on a Noah's Ark type situation, brought them back, and they get loose in San Diego. And then you can transition from The Lost World to Jurassic World. Anyways, it's too late for that. Jurassic Park 3, we bring Dr. Alan Grant back to save a missing kid who's stranded on an island from a tour that was not supposed to happen. His divorced parents team up to trick Alan Grant into saving their son, or to help them save their son. And Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler are no longer together. She hooked up with some other dude and had his babies instead. So the whole character arc of Alan Grant in the first film of becoming this accepting father figure role was for nothing. The one cool thing we get out of Jurassic Park 3 is the Raptor resonating chamber, where you can kind of just blow on this instrument like it's a flute, but it makes raptor noises, and then you can kind of communicate with the raptors. Now, it's a little outlandish, but it was still in the realm of possibilities. Next, we get our first Jurassic World. This is as if Jurassic Park had opened successfully. We get a character who says he knew John Hammond, so we're supposed to care about him, as this new John Hammond. There's this weird introduction of like these other two kid characters whose parents are getting divorced and we're supposed to care. I guess, I don't know. Chris Pratt is introduced as the Raptor Whisperer. Bryce Dallas Howard is the aunt of those kids whose parents are getting divorced, and she's like a marketing person for the park. Dr. Wu returns from the first Jurassic Park as the lead engineer, I guess, and he's genetically engineering a dinosaur that's like a Tyrannosaurus raptor, a little bit more bite for your buck, as they try to convey in the film. It's kind of a symbolic thing to compare why they're making the movie. Like, hey, let's make more dangerous dinosaurs so the people who like the original movie will come back and be excited about this movie. And it's the same thing in the park in the film. They're like, hey, let's make dangerous dinosaurs so we can excite the park attendees to continue coming back. And then there's this guy who wants to buy these weaponized raptors or steal them or something, I don't know. Anyways, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is where we really start falling off of a cliff. It gets terrible from here. It's already been bad, but it gets worse, is what I'm saying. The animal rights dino PETA is amplified from Lost World. We get an Ian Malcolm cameo, which was only really used for the promotional part of the films, like in the trailers, to make you think he was going to be more involved in the film. Chris Pratt's charisma continues to keep the movie somewhat watchable. Claire went from this theme park marketing manager to an activist marketing manager. She's an activist now for animals or dinosaurs. And then we get these insufferable side characters, this boss babe and some dork, and they just rip off a bunch of similar dinosaur chase scenes from Jurassic Park, like with the raptors and the T-Rex. And then at the end, there's like some dinosaur auction where they're selling off these weaponized dinosaurs for extremely cheap. It's like in the couple tens of millions of dollars, when, you know, if it's a corporation that's inventing dinosaurs, that's like chump change, okay? That would have been like the money to produce a few dinosaurs. Oh, and then there's this girl in the film, this kid who is a clone, and that's supposed to have like some kind of wow factor to it, I guess. Anyways, finally we get to Dominion, which is probably one of the worst Jurassic films ever. There's too many storylines going on here, guys. Blocking must have been a nightmare for the film director, the cinematographer. Whoever had to do the blocking for this film probably hated it. The dinosaurs are finally global. They're everywhere. We got the old guard from Jurassic Park. Alan Grant returns. He's still digging up bones. Ellie is now a botanist activist. She's not a paleobotanist anymore. She's a botanist activist. And she's divorced from her then husband from Jurassic Park 3 for the sake of the plot, so her and Alan Grant can have a nice little romantic reunion. Ian Malcolm is still a playboy. Lewis Dodgson finally returns as the Tim Cook of the Jurassic World. Henry Wu also returns as like this wimpy scientist who gets discredited for all the work he's ever done. And the new guard returning as Chris Pratt again, and Bryce Dallas Howard, who both adopted the clone girl from the previous movie, who is now no longer a clone. Guys, I don't know why they do this. It's like, she's a clone. Just kidding. No, she's not in the next movie. Anyways, the real threat in Jurassic World Dominion is not dinosaurs, it's locusts, okay? Giant grasshoppers. Engineered by Dr. Wu under the command of Tim Cook, or Lewis Dodgson, who looks like Tim Cook. And dinosaurs are not deadly to very specific characters for very specific parts of the plot. It feels like no one's in danger anymore. The dinosaurs really just went from feeling like in Jurassic Park actual wildlife to just plot devices in Jurassic World, specifically in Dominion. Anyways, Dominion is just so wildly disconnected thematically and narratively. Okay, now that we're all caught up, let's take a 10-second quick commercial break, and then I'm gonna get into Jurassic World Rebirth. Where do we pick up from here? The Stars and Stripes Freedom Deck ships exclusively in the United States. Available on eBay and Etsy, link in the description below. Alright, to summarize Jurassic World Rebirth, and they're really trying to summarize it with a lot of expedition dump, especially in the beginning. There's a catastrophe happens that's caused by a Snickers wrapper. That's right, you heard it. Snickers is responsible for the catastrophe that happens in Jurassic World Rebirth. Anyways, we're on a new island where there's hybrid dinosaurs being created. We get our Snicker wrapper incident, and then we fast forward and there's this expedition dump, and you have to read the screen. It's literally like black screen, white text, let me catch you up as soon as possible without showing you anything, and just hope you're going to care about all this information later. Anyways, the information is basically that the dinosaurs that we've engineered are now dying because climate change, because we need climate change in the film in order to help funding because of climate propaganda or whatever. Anyways, these dinosaurs can only really exist on the equator due to the global warming, which only affects the equator now for some reason. It's like people don't know how the equator works. Anyways, we're introduced to, again, like Dominion. I will say this before I continue. Rebirth is definitely better than Dominion, but it's still boring and annoying to watch. Anyways, we're introduced to Scarlett Johansson, who is a mercenary with no morals until it serves the plot. Then we're introduced to our second main character, who is this 99-cent store of Dr. Grant, and he is the moral arbiter of good things and bad things. He is pro good things, and when he talks down to someone, it's because they are pro bad things. Okay? Just so you know. If you're the audience, we're going to treat you like you're stupid and you don't get who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. So this guy's going to spell it out for you in a very condescending lecture. Then we get this stray family who gets their ship wrecked by some big dinosaur. And the only thing they do in this movie is make the runtime longer. Like, you really could have just eliminated the entire family storyline, just cut it from the film. This movie would be a lot shorter and maybe a little bit more interesting. The main plot of the film is that Dr. Grant and ScarJo are hired to go and retrieve some DNA samples from these dinosaurs who we don't even know if their DNA is compatible with humans, but we need their DNA to create life-saving medicine to prevent heart disease. That's the story. And we get a lot of crossbred or cross-engineered dinosaurs because I think the filmmakers were like, people have already seen dinosaurs. It's not going to be exciting unless they are like crossbred. We got this Tyrannosaurus Rex that looks like it was crossbred with a xenomorph, like a Xenosaurus Rex or something. And then we get pterodactyl raptor cross-engineer breeded dinosaurs. No one ever feels like they're in any trouble. You know exactly who's going to die and you know exactly who's not going to die. And then everyone kind of just lives happily ever after. It's pretty boring. But to sum up the entire Jurassic film series, or at least the elements that they use to try to keep it alive, we got T-Rex and Raptors, who are the MVPs of the Jurassic franchise. Each Jurassic film after the next tries desperately to keep the fandom caring by name dropping or having a cameo of characters from the original Jurassic Park. For example, we get John Hammond and Dr. Grant, who are kind of name dropped the most to try to keep audience interest, or at least from the original audience. But we never have any narrative history about the connection with these characters in future films, other than characters saying, I knew John Hammond or I knew Dr. Grant. It's like you can tell the power of the original Jurassic film is really the only thing that's keeping these movies being made, because I don't think the interest has been there since, Jurassic World, the first of the newer films, sparked interest, but I think after that it's just kind of just been this downward spiral of a franchise. And it's like each dinosaur film thinks more dinosaurs or bigger dinosaurs or faster dinosaurs is going to make a better movie in combination with animal rights activism or something. You know, Michael Crichton, who I mentioned earlier, wrote the original 2 Jurassic Park and Lost World books. The Lost World, I would say, is just such a fantastic book. If you're a fan of the Jurassic series, I would highly recommend reading Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Even if you're just a fan of the first 2 or the first 3. If you're a fan of any of these films, even if you like the last 2 installments that are just the worst things ever, The Lost World is just such an interesting book, and I think you would have a lot more fun reading that book than putting yourself through a Jurassic film binge, which I suffered through over the last 7 days. But anyways, which Jurassic film is your favorite film? Let me know. Support small business. Buy the Stars and Stripes Freedom Deck. From the heartland to your hand. Only available in the USA. Available from La Casa Loca on eBay and Etsy. For more uneducated expert analysis on film and cinema and the creative field in general, follow us on Twitter @Ghettoplex_MP4, on Instagram @Ghettoplex.mp4, and subscribe to us on YouTube @Ghettoplex.